Yeah. Silence shakes me like steel heated without flame, forging strength in the dark corners where no one looks, where whispers carry more weight than screams ever could. I learned to breathe through the pressure, to weaponize every moment of quiet, to turn the hush of a room into a battlefield where only the strong can hear their own pulse. Rage does not need noise to exist, it grows beneath the ribs like a storm gathering weight, waiting for the right second to break. I walk through the world with my hood low, not to hide, but to keep the fire inside from burning the place down. People see calm on my face and mistake it for surrender, but calm is just the surface, the mask that keeps my power focused, the sheath around a blade that knows its purpose. Every second of silence doubles my strength, every held breath sharpens my vision, every quiet moment tightens my aim, like drawing a bowstring back until the tension sings. I do not need to shout to make the ground shake, my steps carry thunder in their wake, my thoughts strike harder than fists, my rage simmers slow and precise, the kind of heat that melts through steel without leaving a sound. People fear loud men because they do not understand the ones who stand still, but silence is what legends are carved, where kings are born, with the strongest rewrite their stories with ink made from everything they never said. This world tests me in ways it cannot see, it pushes, presses, smothers, hoping I will break like glass under weight, but pressure is a teacher, a sculptor, a force that reveals what cannot be destroyed. I rise in the quiet moments when the world turns its back and assumes I'm finished. I rise in the shadows where expectations loosen their grip and truth stands bare. My calm is not peace, it is preparation. I have met doubt face to face and stared so long into its eyes that it blinked first. I have walked through nights where my rage kept me warm, where my silence was a weapon sharper than anything I could speak aloud. I have fought battles inside myself that the world will never understand, and I carry the scars like hidden medals beneath my voice. Each breath becomes an order, each heartbeat a drum demanding forward motion. I do not owe the world my noise, I owe myself my victory. Tonight I walk into the light with nothing to prove but everything to become. My rage glows beneath my skin like embers refusing to die. My silence hums with electricity, your power coiled and waiting to strike at the perfect moment. This is not anger without control, this is control sharper than anger. This is the anthem of the quiet ones, the ones who rise without warning, the ones who fight without applause, the ones who destroy limits without making a sound. I am done waiting, done shrinking, done letting silence be mistaken for weakness. From this moment forward, my quiet becomes my crown, my rage becomes my fuel, and every step I take will echo across the world that doubted me. Not with noise, but with impact, not with shouts, but with results. This is my silent rage anthem. This is the dawn of the version of me that no one is ready for. There is a fire inside me that refuses to roar, a flame that burns without smoke, rising through the cracks of my silence like a warning meant only for those who know how to listen. The world hears noise and thinks it is power, but the truth lives in the places where breath slows and the heart whispers louder than the crowd ever could. I learned to keep my rage folded tight, not hidden, just sharpened like a blade kept close to the skin. The quiet teaches control, a discipline forged in patience, a heat contained into the moment it needs to strike. Every second I hold my silence, the fire inside grows brighter, burning without needing to shout its presence. People look at me and see calm, but calm is the shell, not the core. Inside me lives a storm without thunder, a blaze without ash, a force shaped by everything I refuse to let break me. I walk through the noise of others like a ghost untouched, because chaos cannot pull down someone who has learned to live above it. The quiet is where I breathe, where I rebuild, where I gather every lost piece and weld them back together. In the heat of my own becoming, I feel the burn under my ribs, glowing like molten metal, slow and unstoppable. A reminder that I am still rising even when I stand still. My rage is not wild, it is discipline, measured, intentional. A torch held steady by hands that have known both darkness and light, but chosen neither, only purpose. There is strength in the quiet that the loud will never understand, a strength that grows from every moment I refuse to collapse, from every battle I fought without witness, from every scar that lights my path forward like constellations cut into my skin. I let the world underestimate the silence, because silence is where I plan, where I heal, where I ignite. The fire climbs my spine, wraps around my thoughts, fills my lungs with the heat that reminds me I am not done, not broken, not even close to defeated. I stand alone in a dim room, hood pulled low, breath steady, mind sharp as the edge of my own will. The quiet thickens around me like smoke ready for spark. The ground hums with the tension of everything I have not yet released, everything I am holding back, until the moment the world tries me again. When the moment comes, I will not be loud, I will not scream, I will simply burn. escape. This is what it means to be burning in the quiet. This is how a legend begins before the world even hears a sound.
The fury in my veins does not scream, it pulses like a second heartbeat. Heavy and deliberate, a rhythm built from everything I survived without making a sound. I feel it rise beneath my skin like electricity crawling toward a storm that no one else can see coming. Quiet fury is a different kind of power, the kind that waits, the kind that chooses its moment, the kind that never misses. I walk through crowded rooms as if the noise is miles away, as if the world is blurred. Beneath the hood that shields my focus, people talk loud because they fear silence. I stay silent because I mastered it. Silence is not emptiness, it is control. Authority, a throne built from restraint instead of chaos. My fury sits beside me like a loyal shadow, unmoving until I decide to unleash it. I have fought monsters that never touched my skin, dragons that lived only in my mind, and nights that tried to break me with weight instead of violence. But I learned to stand anyway, to breathe anyway, to rise anyway. My quiet is not surrender, it is strategy written in blood. My fury is not reckless, it is precision that cuts deeper than any shout ever could. When the world doubts me, I hear the pulse of my rage beat stronger than their disbelief. When they push me down, the quiet inside anchors me, so I can rise without noise and return without warning. They never see the moment I choose, they only feel the impact. My veins burn with a heat that climbs my arms and settles behind my eyes like a fire learning to speak. It moves slow, gathering shape, becoming sharper until every breath I take feels like a vow. I intend to keep this fury. It's not wild, it is trained, disciplined, evolved into something even the dark respects. I walk through the shadows as if they are my own creation, as if the night is split open just to clear my path. My silence grows heavy around me, pulling the air tight, charging every second with the weight of what's coming. The ground hums beneath my steps like it already knows what my rage is capable of. And when I finally choose to move, it will not be loud, it will not be chaotic, it will be surgical. A strike built from every quiet hour I spent rebuilding myself into something unshakable. The world will not hear me coming, but it will feel me arriving. It will feel the heat of every scar, the force of every lesson, the truth of a fury that never needed permission to exist. I am not here to be understood, I am here to rise, to burn, to cut through the noise with the sharpest silence the world has ever seen. This is my quiet fury, alive in every vein, ready to turn stillness into power and pressure into strength. This is veins of quiet fury. This is the chapter where the fire learns to run. The shadows did not follow me at first, I earned them. Step by step, wound by wound, through every night I walked alone without asking the world to understand. Silence carved its initials into my spine, teaching me to stand where others collapsed, teaching me to breathe when the air turned heavy, teaching me to rise without applause. And somewhere in that darkness, the shadows learned my name. They moved closer each night, watching me rebuild myself out of the pieces the world tried to discard. Not guiding me, not comforting me, just witnessing the quiet transformation. No one else bothered to see. The rage inside me grew steady. Control, discipline, the fire that refused to roar, because roaring was not its language. It preferred the silence, preferred the pressure, preferred the kind of stillness that breaks weak minds and crowns the ones who endure. People think shadows cling to the broken, but the truth is simpler. They cling to those who survive, those who stand up in the dark without trembling, those who stare into the black and do not flinch, those who keep walking even when the world shuts its last door. That is when the shadows choose you, that is when silence becomes arm and rage becomes fuel. I felt their presence tighten around me like a circle of unseen allies that wait familiar. Their silence heavy with recognition, not fear, not warning, recognition. As if they understood the battles I fought with no one watching, as if they saw the scars etched across my patience, as if they knew the exact moment I stopped breaking and started building. My breath slowed, my pulse sharpened, my steps grew heavier with purpose I could feel in the bones of the night. The world blurred in the background noise, a distant hum beneath the sound of my own quiet rising. The shadows move with me, matching my pace, mirroring my resolve, forming a silent army shaped by everything I had endured. I realized then that I no longer walked alone, not because I needed company, but because my fury had become a beacon for the darkness that respected strength. The shadows did not protect me, they aligned with me, not out of fear, not out of loyalty, out of recognition of a force that could not be shaken, the fire that refused to extinguish, a spirit sharpened by silence instead of shattered by it. When I moved, they followed. When I stopped, they gathered. When I breathed, the air shifted around us as if the night itself waited for my next decision. I felt the world bend at the edges, felt the ground hum like it knew something powerful was forming in the quiet. And when I finally spoke, I did not whisper, I did not shout. I simply existed with the weight the world could not ignore. The shadows leaned in, listening, learning, remembering. This is the moment I understood my own evolution. The silence had become my voice, the rage had become my compass, and the shadows had become my witnesses from that night forward. The fire inside me no longer hides in the corners. It rises now, steady in control. The flame that climbs without flicker, burning upward with purpose instead of rage without direction. This is not the kind of blaze that destroys everything in its path. This is the kind that melts through chains, that softens steel before reshaping it, that turns pressure into clarity and darkness into guidance. I feel the heat building beneath my ribs, not chaotic, not desperate, but deliberate. A quiet fire learning how to stand. Every breath I take feeds the ember at my core. Every step stirs the ash of old fears. Every heartbeat sends another spark up the ladder on my spine, until my entire frame hums with the weight of becoming. The world still thinks I am calm. They see silence and confuse it with surrender, but silence is where I gather strength, where I strip away the noise until only truth remains. My quiet is a forge, my stillness is a blade, my patience is the hammer shaping the steel of my will. With every trial I endure, I walk through the night with the heat rising behind my eyes, turning shadows into shapes I can read, turning fear into fuel, turning doubt into dust that scatters behind me. With each step forward, I no longer carry the flame, I become it. I am the upward climb, the steady burn, the whisper that becomes a roar without ever raising its voice. There were days when I thought the fire would die, when silence felt like suffocation instead of sanctuary, but I learned to breathe through it, to trust the quiet, to let the heat inside guide me instead of consuming. Rage does not make me strong, discipline does, restraint does. Knowing when to burn and when to rise makes me untouchable. Now the fire ascends through every memory that tried to break me, through every night I stood alone, through every scar I carry like a map, leading me out of the person I used to be. The quiet becomes my wind, pushing the flame higher, lifting me into a world I was once too afraid to reach for. I feel the ground tilt, the shadow shift, the air bend around, the force that pulses from my chest. This is no longer the spark that survived in darkness. This is the fire that will outlive it. Not loud, not wild, but ascending, a steady climbing the strength the world tried to deny me. This is the moment I rise without asking permission. This is the moment the quiet takes my side. This is the moment the fire inside me finally stands tall. This is quiet fire ascending. The chapter where the flame learns to walk with purpose, instead of waiting to be ignited. The storm inside me never vanished. It stayed coiled, tight and controlled, a force held in place by discipline instead of fear. Most people think silence means the storm passed, but silence is the place where storms prepare, where thunder learns patience, where lightning holds its breath until the world dares to provoke it. I have carried this storm for years, not to bury it, but to train it, to teach the thunder when to strike, to teach the wind when to hold back, to teach the rain how to fall only when I choose. Every silent night became a lesson, every quiet moment a grip tightening on the power within me, a reminder that the fiercest storms are the ones no one hears coming. People look at me and see still water, but still water hides depth that can swallow anything. I am the calm surface that conceals the pull beneath the weight, the pressure, the force waiting for the second the world underestimates me again. And when it arrives, the storm does not need sound, it needs direction. My breath becomes wind gathering speed, my pulse becomes thunder rolling in the distance. My thoughts become lightning cutting through everything that once held me back. The rage inside does not explode, it expands, stretching through every vein like the sky splitting open just before the downpour. This is not chaos, this is control with teeth. I feel the storm echo in the space around me, a low hum beneath my steps, a tremor in the air. Whenever I lift my eyes, the shadows shift as if listening, as if they know the storm I restrained for so long is ready to speak without noise. There is power in the held breath in the moment before, impacting the tension that makes the world lean in without realizing it. The storm does not ask permission, it announces itself through the strength of everything that tried to break me but failed. It grows from scars, from silence, from the weight I refuse to collapse under. I am not the child of the storm, I am its architect, its anchor, its direction. When I move, the air shifts. When I focus, the ground steadies. When I rise, the echoes of every hailstorm rise with me, forming an army of pressure that bends the night around my will. This is how power speaks without shouting. This is how storms strike without warning. I do not need chaos to prove my strength. I need clarity, and clarity is found in the quiet seconds before the world realizes it should have listened. This is the chapter where the storm no longer waits, where the echoes become footsteps, where the silence becomes command, This is echoes of a hailstorm, the moment before the sky breaks open and everything finally understands what I have carried all along. Silence is no longer still around me. It moves like breath against the walls, shifting the air with pressure that only the attentive can feel. I used to think silence meant nothing, an empty room with no voice, no presence, no threat, but I was wrong. Silence is a force, and once it begins to move, the world learns to fear the quiet. I walk with a calm that shakes the ground beneath my steps, a quiet so sharp it splits the noise around me like a blade moving through fog. People mistake my stillness for softness, my silence for surrender, my patience for weakness, but they don't understand what silence becomes when pressure fuels it. Silence grows teeth, silence learns weight, silence prepares for impact in ways noise never could. The anger inside me no longer hides, it pulses beneath my skin, a steady hum rising like a tide that refuses to stay down. This is not the rage that explodes, this is the rage that advances, measured, unshakable, intentional, the kind that chooses its moment with precision carved from survival. I feel the air tighten when I pull my hood lower, the room dims, the shadows lean, and the silence shifts forward as if taking its first step beside me. It wraps my shoulders like armor forged from restraint, heavy with purpose, cold with clarity, the world can sense it. The quiet is no longer passive, it is hunting, it is listening, it is moving. My heart slows, but my focus sharpens, thoughts turn into weapons, breath turns into strategy. Every scar I carry glows faint beneath the surface, a constellation of memories etched into the map of who I became. The silence follows each memory, tracing the path of every moment that tried to break me, but only strengthened my resolve. I learned to move without showing fear, learned to breathe without letting doubt slip, and learned to fight battles inside myself that made the outside world feel small. And now the silence reflects all of it, mirroring the storm I've kept controlled for so long. The quiet shifts with each decision I make, each step I take, each truth I refuse to bury. I am not rushing, I am not hesitating, I am advancing slowly enough to stay deliberate, powerfully enough to make the air tremble. This is how empires rise in darkness, not in chaos but in focus. When silence starts to move, the world pays attention. It feels the shift before it sees the change. It senses the weight of something unstoppable gathering direction. I am that direction, I am that pressure, I am the quiet becoming force. This is the chapter where silence becomes momentum, where rage becomes motion, where the world realizes too late that I have already begun to rise. This is when silence starts to move, and nothing can make it stop.
Yeah. Power without words is heavier than any threat. It presses into the room like gravity shifting, warping the air around me until even the shadows hesitate. This is the kind of strength that doesn't ask to be heard, it demands to be felt. Not through noise, not through rage, but through presence forged in silence and sharpened through years of endurance. I learned early that the strongest voices in the world aren't the ones that echo the loudest. They're the ones spoken without saying a single thing. They come from the chest, from the scars that never healed evenly, from the moments where breaking would have been easier than breathing. But I kept breathing, I kept rising, I kept walking through nights that swallowed entire versions of me just so I could emerge unrecognizable in the morning. Now the silence around me carries weight that cannot be ignored. It is not emptiness, it is density built from everything I survived without showing the world what it cost me. My rage is no longer flame or thunder, it is pressure, it is gravity, it is the force that shakes mountains without ever lifting its voice. People step back when I enter a room, not because I look dangerous, but because something in their instincts recognizes the quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before storms, before battles, before history changes its course. The kind of quiet that belongs to someone who no longer doubts their own fire. I walk with a calm that vibrates the ground beneath the floorboards, a steadiness built from every night I spent wrestling my own shadows and learning they were simply parts of me I had not yet mastered. Now they move with me, an army of silence waiting only for my breath to shift direction. My thoughts cut cleaner than blades, my focus burns hotter than flame, my patience hits harder than this. This is what wordless power becomes, a force held together by control that cannot be taught. Only earned, a truth carved into my bones. From every moment I refuse to fall, I do not raise my voice because I no longer need to. The silence speaks for me now, it carries the weight of every trial I overcame, every fear I outlived, every wound I turned into fuel, and the world feels it in the way the air thickens when I decide to step forward, in the way the ground listens when I choose my path, in the way the night bends to make space for the storm inside me. This is not the end of my anger, it is the evolution of it. Not loud, not wild, not reckless, but unshakable, measured, inevitable. The world can try to ignore words, but it cannot ignore pressure, it cannot ignore presence, it cannot ignore the weight of someone who has learned to turn silence
into power. This is the weight of wordless power. The chapter where quiet becomes command, and command becomes destiny. Yeah.
Yeah. My silence was never harmless. It was simply waiting for the moment. The world stopped talking long enough to hear what power sounds like when it chooses not to speak. The ground beneath me knows it. It trembles before I move, vibrating with the pressure I've carried for years without letting it burst. Silence has grown heavier inside me, thick like smoke before fire, dense like clouds before a storm that will not announce itself with thunder but with impact. Every step I take sends echoes through the floor, not from force but from the weight of everything I became in the shadows the world ignored. People think earthquakes come from deep below, from fault lines hidden in the earth, but some come from within the person, from the strain they endured, from the pain they mastered, from the silence they sharpened into something the ground recognizes as truth. I feel the tremor of my rage in my fingertips, a vibration growing louder inside my bones, even while the world hears nothing. My breath is steady, but the air bends around it, pressing inward as if waiting for permission to break. I am no longer fighting my fire, I am guiding it, no longer wrestling my shadows, I am walking beside them, no longer holding in the storm, I am learning to let it move without letting it destroy. That is what makes the ground shake, not chaos, not fury, but the evolution of it. Every scar on my body is a point of pressure, every memory I refuse to forget is a weight I learn to carry without bending. And as those weights merge, as they fuse into the core of who I am now, the world feels the shift. The silence thickens around me, pushing against the walls, pressing into the air until even the shadows pause, as if they know this is the moment before everything changes. It is not loud, it is not violent, it is not reckless, it is inevitable. When I move, the ground responds. When I breathe, the night adjusts. When I lift my head, the world feels the pressure of someone who stopped running from their own strength. This is not a warning, warnings make noise. This is the truth, the kind felt instead of heard, the kind that travels through the floor, through the air, through the spine of anyone watching, telling them something unstoppable is beginning to rise. I walk forward and the tremor follows me like a shadow, growing stronger with every step, growing louder without sound, growing deeper with purpose until the world finally understands the danger of someone who rebuilt themselves in silence. I am no longer waiting for the right moment, I am creating it. And the ground knows it shakes in recognition, it shakes in respect, it shakes because the silence is done staying still. This is silence that shakes the ground, the chapter where quiet becomes quake, and quake becomes destiny. I am no longer
The quiet inside me no longer burns small. It rises in a column of heat, straight and unwavering, forming the kind of flame that does not flicker, because it has nothing left to fear. This is not the beginning of rage, it is the evolution of it. A fire that learned patience, a flame that grew wise, a heat that outlasted a storm that birthed it. I feel the crown forming above my head, not made of gold, not forged from metal, but built from every quiet victory I earned alone. Every silent night I survived, every breath I refused to break. Even when breaking would have been easier, my flames do not roar. They rise, steady, certain, inevitable. The world taught me that noise equals strength, that loud men rule rooms, that power requires volume. But standing here with the heat climbing my spine like a promise I finally understand, I know they were wrong. Silence is where strength is forged, quiet is where kings are made. Rage becomes unstoppable only when it learns how to listen to its own heartbeat. Shadows gather behind me, not as threats but as witnesses. The ground still trembles with the echoes of the storms I held, and the air bends inward as if bracing for the moment I finally step into the space I spent a lifetime preparing for. This is not destiny, this is creation, but by my own hands, my own scars, my own silence sharpening into authority. My rage no longer shakes, it glows, it moves through my veins with clarity instead of chaos. A heat that steadies my breath instead of stilling it. Every scar is a jewel in this crown, every wound is gold in a fiery memory.
reflects the shape of who I became. I step forward, and the darkness folds around me like a cloak woven from every victory. The world overlooked this crown made of quiet flames, rest weightless above me. Yet the world feels its pressure, not loud, not violent, not wild, just undeniable. The kind of presence that turns storms silent, that teaches thunder humility, that makes the night bow without needing to speak. I am no longer holding back, I am no longer rising. I have risen, the quiet zombie is taking its rightful throne in the fire that once hid in the cracks of my silence. Now stands tall enough to light the entire path ahead. The world may forget my noise, but it will remember my impact. It will remember the ground shaking when my silence moved. It will remember the storm that never needed to roar. It will remember the heat that shaped itself into power without burning the world down. This is the end of doubt, the end and of restraint, the beginning of a reign built from calm fire, and unshakable quiet. This is the crown made of quiet flames. The moment a king is born from silence itself.
Some fires roar to prove they are alive. Mine does not need to. It burns with a certainty that silence only strengthens. A flame so controlled it becomes a promise instead of a threat. I carry this fire like a second spine, straight and unbending, shaped by nights that taught me how to burn without breaking, how to survive without shouting, how to rise without asking. There is heat beneath my ribs that glows deeper than rage. A slow and powerful burn fed by scars I outgrew and seasons I endured when the world thought I would fade. But flames do not fade, they wait. They buy the color in the dark, gathering color, gathering weight, gathering purpose, until the moment they decide to shape something new. I walk forward, and the air shifts as if remembering the storm I once held, the silence I once sharpened, the ground I once made tremble. But this chapter is different. My fire no longer needs to prove anything, it simply exists. Quiet, constant, unstoppable. People still judge strength by noise, still measure power by volume, still think silence equals safety. But anyone who stands near me feels the truth in the heat, in the calm, in the steady pulse of something uncontained yet completely controlled. The fire inside me follows no rules but my own. It does not rage, it ascends. It does not scream, it becomes. It does not destroy, it transforms. And every step I take leaves behind the warmth of someone who learned to burn without asking the world to watch. This is the fire that never makes a sound, and because of that, it will never be extinguished.
There is a kind of calm that shakes the world more than fury ever could. A calm built not from peace, but from understanding, from knowing exactly who I am and what I am capable of without needing anyone to fear it. This calm follows me like a shadow, close to the skin, thick in the air, heavy with the weight of every moment I refuse to fall. It bends the night, straightens the horizon, and pulls the silence tighter around my shoulders like a mantle carved from pressure. I take a breath and the world adjusts to me, as if waiting for the ground to crack beneath the stillness. People see my calm and think the storm is past, but storms do not end. They evolve, they become precise, they become deliberate, they become kings. I feel the power beneath my silence, press outward like a pulse that refuses to remain hidden. Not violent, not chaotic, but unavoidable. Every step I take carries history, every breath I take carries weight, every glance I give carries truth, the truth that I no longer follow the world, I move it. The calm inside me is not the absence of rage. It is the final form of it, the sharpened edge of 1,000 silent battles no one witnessed, but everyone will feel. I stand still, and the quiet around me splits open like stone under heat. Not with noise, but with pressure, not with violence, but with certainty. Not with rage, but with authority. This is the moment the world learns what silence becomes when nothing can bend it anymore. The calm does not break me, it breaks the world so I can rebuild it in my image. This is the calm that breaks the world, the last echo of a journey forged in quiet flames and unshakable rise.